In the luxurious halls of Duke Leclair's castle, Pedro, a charming man, mingled among the guests of high society. However, his gaze was not seeking the familiar faces or the easy smiles of noble ladies, but rather a presence that seemed different from all the splendor surrounding him, a presence he couldn't find in the circles he frequented. He was already accustomed to seeing the same noble women who didn't spark any interest in him. In fact, he found them shallow, empty, and their conversations were always the same: power, wealth, and a good marriage. One day, sitting in the garden of his castle, his eyes fixed on a woman who seemed to know the servants' entrance. Yet, he had never noticed her presence before. Curious, he sought to find out who she was and discovered it was Anna, the cook's daughter. He also learned that when her mother was overwhelmed with preparations for a grand event at the castle, she would call her daughter to help. Filled with curiosity and wanting to admire the beautiful woman up close, Pedro went to the kitchen, making up some excuse. When he arrived, Anna was busy with her tasks and didn't even notice his presence. He watched her skillful hands handling ingredients with the expertise of someone who knew the secrets of cooking. But it was her simple and natural beauty that captivated Pedro, like a flower blooming in the middle of a crystal garden. As the days passed, Pedro found himself increasingly drawn to Anna's discreet charms. She wasn't always at the castle, but he knew that whenever there was a big event, she would be there to help her mother. One day, as the castle prepared for a grand celebration, Pedro saw Anna assisting her mother in the kitchen. That moment seemed perfect to express the feelings that had been simmering in his chest for months. With determined steps, he approached Anna, who, surprised, looked up to meet his gaze. With a smile on his lips, he said, "You're Dona Maria's daughter, aren't you?" Anna replied with a polite smile. "Yes, sir." He, looking closely at her face, exclaimed, "You're beautiful, and I'm very interested in you, Anna." Startled by the unexpected declaration, Anna blushed and quickly walked away. Pedro followed her steps with his eyes until she disappeared down the hallway. He felt his heart was about to burst with desire for that woman. He needed to find a way to be alone with her. He waited for another opportunity to approach her. After making so many excuses to go to the kitchen, one day Anna's mother asked him, "Are you looking for something in the kitchen, sir?" He, looking at Anna, replied, "No, Dona Maria. I love the food you prepare, but I think you have too much work to do alone. That's why I'm going to hire your daughter to help you." The mother, happy that her daughter was being hired, replied, "I'm sure you won't regret it, sir." He, smiling and looking at Anna, said, "I'm sure I won't." And after speaking, he left. Pedro had planned everything. With Anna working at the castle, he would have more opportunities to get closer to her. One day, he asked her to bring him tea in the library. When she arrived, he grabbed her arm. The desire he felt for her made him act without thinking. Before he realized it, he had already embraced her and said, "I'm completely in love with you, Anna." "But, sir," she began to say, placing the tray on the table. Pedro closed the door, preventing anyone from seeing them. He leaned in to kiss her. What they didn't know is that, after the day Pedro declared his interest, Anna had also begun to realize she liked him. She knew their social differences separated them, but her heart didn't care about conventions. At that moment, it was as if their hearts were beating in sync. Pedro, filled with passion, kissed her intensely. He wanted to be close to her, and Anna, inexperienced, let herself be carried away. Noticing that she reciprocated his kisses, Pedro felt immense pleasure and held her tighter. But when he noticed Anna's body trembling, he grew concerned and let her go. Looking at her, he said, "Forgive me. I lost control. I'm in love with you, Anna, and I don't want to hurt you. I realized you've never been with a man before." "No, sir, I've never been, and I also lost control because," she began to say, lowering her eyes. "Because what, Anna? Please go on." Pedro said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Because I desire you too," she confessed. Hearing this, Pedro felt that moment was perfect. Being reciprocated was all he had ever wanted. He kissed every inch of her face, and she, filled with happiness, said, "Oh, My dear Pedro. The two were embraced, enjoying that magical moment until they heard a knock at the door. Pedro let go of Ana and opened the door. It was his mother. Why was the door locked? She asked, looking sternly at Ana. Pedro calmly replied, Mother, I am the master of this house, and I don't need to explain my actions. His mother, looking at Ana, said, I hope you know what you're doing. I didn't raise my son to get involved with servants. Ana, embarrassed, shrank into a corner. Pedro, seeing the woman he loved being insulted, said, Mother, I don't care what others think. And I believe you didn't care either when my father, the first Duke Leclair, married you, who were just a servant, right? His mother, with no response, lowered her head and left the library. Ana was overwhelmed with emotions. In just a few minutes, she had experienced love, sweet kisses, and the confirmation of Pedro's love in front of his mother. Pedro pulled her into his arms again, and she surrendered completely to him. That day, she forgot about everything else and let herself be carried away by him to a place full of pleasure and happiness. In an act of defiance toward his mother and society, Pedro sought Dona Maria's approval to marry Ana, taking her from her simple life and giving her a place in his heart and his life. In an emotional ceremony, Pedro, Duke Leclair, and Ana united their destinies before the eyes of the nobility and the happiness of Dona Maria, the mother of the new Duchess Leclair.